Right now, there is an invisible epidemic raging worldwide that still has no cure. Masks and vaccines don't help, and its scale continues to grow. Back in the 1980s, reproductive endocrinologist Martin Quigley from the Cleveland Clinic called it an epidemic of infertility in the USA. The numbers were alarming. From the 1960s to the 1980s, infertility rates nearly tripled, with 1 in 6 American couples considered infertile. Just imagine, every year, millions of couples receive this diagnosis. Research in this field began, and it turned out that women weren't the only ones responsible for conception problems. Guys, it's time to face the facts. Here's a surprise. 40% of infertility cases are on us men's shoulders. Well, not exactly shoulders, if you know what I mean. Come on, you might say. It's not a big deal. Sperm cells are just microscopic tadpoles, right? Just launch them with enough force, like a rocket, and you're good to go. If they make it to the finish line, great. If not, oh well, it happens. Hello, this is Ray.
Science in his pocket. Make your mind travel.
In the last century, scientists were still like children. They too thought that sperm cells were very simple and looked like tadpoles. They look similar, don't they? What else do you need? But not so fast. All these oversimplifications didn't help solve the problem of male infertility. Do you know what the most complex and deadly race in the world looks like? In this race, out of tens of millions at the start, only one makes it to the finish line and survives. Get comfortable. You're about to hear the most tragic and thrilling true story about life. This happens every day, every hour, and every minute on this planet. It's happening right now, and each of you has gone through this race and won. You just don't remember it. Let's figure out how everything works. And I'll ask all believers in fairness and equality to step away from the screen, because nature doesn't know such concepts. The law of the jungle rules here. Out of millions of participants, only one wins. We are gathered here to better understand our bodies, reduce the risks of unwanted consequences, and realize how amazingly everything is designed. We don't even think about the complexity and beauty of our inner world when we flush it down the toilet or wipe it with a tissue. Well, gentlemen, let's start with the basics, as you like it. The base for producing our offspring is in that familiar pouch. Scientifically speaking, in the testicles. But you most often call them
boy nuts. Balls.
This is the sperm factory. There's an interesting condition to start work. The factory needs to be outside the body. Spermatogenesis, or sperm production, is a very delicate process that's sensitive to temperature. It occurs at 34-35 degrees Celsius, 93-95 Fahrenheit, while inside the body, the temperature is a couple of degrees higher. Nature placed the testicles outside, not so you could compare ball sizes in the pool locker room, but to create the right conditions for spermatogenesis. Sometimes in adolescents aged 10-16, the nuts can retract inside the body. They might not be able to feel them in the scrotum. This can be shocking for them, like, holy cow, where did they go? But this is absolutely normal. It can be caused by impact, sudden movement, abdominal muscle tension, masturbation or heavy coughing, as well as wearing tight clothing, and it can even happen during sleep. However, if the testicles are constantly raised and living in the abdominal cavity for some reason, that's already a diagnosis. Cryptorchidism. It needs urgent treatment because first, there's a risk of testicular cancer, and second, the factory ends up in higher temperature conditions, resulting in a low-quality product. That's why it's good to have little boys checked by urologists. Let's take a deeper look at the process of creating a new human being. It's both complex and magnificent. First, in the many tubules of the testicles, the most primary sex cells, spermatogonia, mature. They contain chromosomes with genetic information, including both sex chromosomes, X and Y. Then the original cell divides into 2 spermatocytes, each containing separately either an X or Y chromosome. These will now determine the sex of the child. When a spermatocyte with an X chromosome becomes a sperm and fertilizes the female egg, a girl with XX chromosomes will be born. And if a Y chromosome carrier reaches the egg, it will be a boy with XY. Remember that for centuries, across many cultures, women were blamed for giving birth to girls instead of boys. Although now we know, it all depends on which male sperm reaches the egg. In the end, from one primary cell, after all divisions, we get 4 sperm cells, 2 of them with X chromosome, 2 others with Y. At the start, the chances are equal, 50-50. After the testicles, our swimmer sperm moves to the next station, the epididymis. And this is where its real training takes place before the upcoming big challenge, the journey to the egg. Up until this point, our tadpole has recorded all the hereditary information to maintain the immortality of the human species and even grown a tail. However, this tail isn't functional yet. It's moved to the next station, the epididymis, by fluid flow, and can only drift with the current. At this stage, it's like cargo on a raft. It doesn't sink anymore, but it can't swim to its destination on its own. The epididymis contains a real training camp where our swimmer transforms into a strong combat super swimmer. Here, it needs to learn to swim at a speed of 50 micrometers per second to come first, and build up strength to squeeze through the mucus of the fallopian tubes. During training, it becomes leaner and more dense and strong. The head decreases in size, compressing all the data it carries from the father. Now it's stronger and more confident than ever before. After the completion of the process of spermatogenesis, during arousal, our heroes travel through the vas deferens to the lesser pelvis. There they reach the final station in the urethra, where the final mixing takes place. To bring them to readiness, fluid from the prostate gland is added. Its task is to increase the pH around the sperm cells. Why is this needed? You'll be surprised, but a woman's vagina is quite an aggressive environment. First, it's acidic, while our swimmers are used to an alkaline environment. The sperm would simply oxidize and burn up when it encounters this acid. That's why it needs a superhero suit. A plasma membrane forms around the cell that protects it from the aggressive environment. Second, the vagina has its own microbiota and a temperature of 37 degrees Celsius, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And remember, the guys prefer it cooler in the factory outside. The membrane protects our hero and prevents the surrounding natural cataclysm from destroying it. Just imagine how brutal this race is. 2 hours after entering the vagina, most sperm cells die, and only the strongest and most mobile ones spend several more hours pushing through the mucus-filled cervix and enter the uterus. What's going on here? Are men not welcome inside at all? I thought we were working together on this. That's right. It's just that a woman's body fiercely protects its most valuable assets, the eggs that will become children, from bacteria and microbes. And among our heroes, these challenges and obstacles will help select the best one. Only the most beautiful, strong, and well-adapted should reach the finish line. That's the law of evolution. This marathon can last up to 24 hours. That's why another fluid from the seminal vesicles is added, which is rich in fructose to nourish the sperm cells along their journey. Plus, it contains magical prostaglandins, which not only protect against the aggressive female environment, but also cause the smooth muscles of the fallopian tubes to contract. Imagine, these substances activate a kind of elevator inside the woman and make the environment pull the tadpoles toward their designated target. And now we're ready for the victory shot. Our superheroes have gained strength, skills, and protection. It's time to get moving. But where to? After they've been launched somewhere, how do they find their way to the intended target? After all, they don't have eyes. For this purpose, our hero has a compass. Receptors located in the plasma membrane of the head that can recognize and connect with the egg cell. Now he knows for sure that he's reached the right door, and all that's left is to enter the fortress. Our knight has a helmet with a special key for opening the fortress gates, the acrosome. With it, the hero overcomes the final obstacle, the protective layers of the egg cell. When the sperm presses against the outer membrane of the egg cell, the acrosome reaction begins. Special enzymes are released from the sperm, which start to break down the egg cell's membrane, allowing it to penetrate inside. After one sperm successfully penetrates the egg cell, it no longer needs to fear competition, as the cortical reaction occurs, preventing other sperm from entering. The egg cell's membrane becomes completely impenetrable to them, and their keys won't work anymore. And now comes the ultimate process, the the one for which he endured this long and dangerous journey filled with deadly challenges: fertilization. Despite such a well-thought-out process, things can still go wrong. What do doctors and scientists ultimately look at to ensure a person can have healthy offspring? In 1980, the first World Health Organization publication addressed the evaluation of male semen. At that time, they established a minimum percentage of good sperm cells needed for a man to create new life. They decided that 80% would be a good number. In reality, however, this didn't correlate with a man's ability to conceive healthy offspring. But this was understood later. Tests showed plenty of good sperm cells, yet pregnancies weren't happening. In 1986, a man burst onto the scientific scene who would turn everything upside down: Thinus Kruger. He looked at the problem in a completely different way. Kruger worked in South Africa and conducted a real experiment. He counted how many sperm cells could make it to their destination in 8 hours. Then he carefully examined and described them. He discovered that only sperm cells of perfect shape could reach the target, and not all of them were perfect. "Guys," Kruger tells his colleagues, "you're not looking carefully enough. These seemingly simple tadpoles are a parade of surprises." And he starts listing. You've got heads that can be giant-sized or tiny, or even upside down. Sometimes there are 2 of them. Can you imagine? 2 heads. And the neck? Oh, that's a whole other story. It can be curved, like a roller coaster, or thick as a bull's neck. The tails are a real carnival. And the most treacherous part, sometimes the head doesn't have that special key. Currently, it's accepted that conception requires at least 4% of those perfect sperm cells selected according to Kruger's strict criteria. The global situation with men is quite complicated. Studies show that their sperm count has decreased by approximately 50% between 1973 and 2018. Since the beginning of the 21st century, this indicator has been declining even faster, at 2.64% annually, which is twice the previous rate, indicating a progressive deterioration in male fertility. This is a reason to take a more serious look at the issue. Guys, let's fix this situation. Let's think about our health and our superheroes. Just imagine how tough the rules are in this competition where conception is the prize. About 23 million swimmers line up at the starting position. But only one can continue the bloodline. The best, luckiest, and strongest. Did you know that the normal standard is a minimum of 15 million sperm cells per milliliter? Have you counted yours yet? If for some reason the number of swimmers is lower, a medical diagnosis of oligozoospermia is given. Problems arise in 2 cases. Either there's a production issue at the factory itself, or there are transportation problems. By the way, guys, remember those times when a ball hit you hard on the sports field and caused swelling? In such moments, one or both processes can be temporarily disrupted. Fortunately, this passes. There are more serious cases when there are no sperm cells in the seminal fluid at all. Absolute zero. In this case, the diagnosis is azoospermia, and the causes are the same. Problems either with production or transportation, or maybe both simultaneously. So, what should you do in this situation? To find out how awesome your swimmers are and if your factory is producing enough of them, you need to get a semen analysis. Important rule: you must abstain from sexual activity for 3 to 5 days. Remember how we talked about the formation of genetic information and preparing sperm for their challenging journey? Measuring the results of this complex process is most effective during the 3 to 5 day period. Earlier analysis may show reduced sperm count and ejaculate volume. With longer abstinence, the material begins to stagnate. This negatively affects sperm motility and morphology, and they may start sticking together. By the way, this 3 to 5 day rule for renewal can also be used when planning pregnancy, so you can start with a full army in its best form. Of course, there are other rules. You should avoid alcohol, smoking, various substances, excessive physical exercise, and even visiting saunas or other ways of overheating. All of this can affect the test results, but your urologist will provide you with more detailed information. Don't panic. There's no need to rush to the doctor right now. Millions of people in this world create offspring without knowing how it all works. But it wouldn't hurt to get this analysis done when you decide to contribute to the continuation of the human race. There are now many home devices for sperm testing and special apps for data analysis. This makes the procedure simpler and more affordable, allowing you to check quality more frequently. If your sperm analysis results are less than ideal, don't despair. Modern medicine works wonders, improving sperm quality, increasing sperm count, and enhancing conception chances. All of this is possible. The key is to take care of your health in time. Giving up bad habits, maintaining a balanced diet, and consulting specialists can turn the situation around for the better. Remember that you were once a sperm cell yourself. Don't be embarrassed. Each of us started that way. And by the way, it wasn't just a journey, but a real race where you beat millions of competitors. Picture this, the starting line. 1,000,000 ambitious, fast, and, most importantly, motivated contenders. We were all there, equal, but only one had to win. Who? You, of course. I'm glad to remind you that you're a lucky one and capable of great things. I wanted you to learn just how amazing nature is and how incredibly complex processes are taking place inside us. I want men to realize that even though we spend far less time on the project of creating a child than women do, we are responsible for its gender and its future health and the course of pregnancy greatly depend on us. So, friends, don't be afraid to ask questions and be curious about your body. After all, knowledge is power. And when it comes to reproduction, this power becomes especially important. Share this video with your friend. Let him discover the miracle happening below his belt too. Subscribe, it's going to be interesting here. See you at our next meeting.
Science in his pocket. Make your mind travel.